Dr. Sarah McElroy, Executive Director of Career and Transfer Pathways. Dr. Christine Webster Hansen, Dean of the Humanities Institute. Dr. Joan Scacco, Dean of Continuing and Professional Studies. Dr. Anita Vogt, Associate Vice President for Strategic Partnerships. Stephanie Fitzsimmons, Director of Financial Aid. Jimmy Episcopia, Associate Vice President of Operations. Chief Robert Kimler, the Chief of Brookdale Police. George Sotirian, Chief Information Officer of the IT Department. Jane Edmond, Dean of Health and Science Department. To my immediate left, Christopher June, Executive Director of Student Services. Mary Beth Riley, Executive Director of Enrollment Services. Patricia Sensi, Associate Vice President for Human Resources and Organizational Safety. And someone who will be joining us on Zoom today, Eleanor Galizuski, who is a registrar for Brookdale. Nancy Kari, the Vice President of Advancement. Nancy Kegelman, the Associate Vice President for Planning and Institutional Effectiveness, excuse me. And I also want to acknowledge Lauren Brutzman, our Director of Student Life. So administrators, I want to thank you all for taking the time from your busy schedules to be here with us today. So, of course, let's get started. Now, before we start, of course, I want to acknowledge to the audience that last time we held the Speak Out, it seemed like yours truly was one of the only ones speaking out among a few others, of course. And to any students tuning in, I know my voice may be rather refreshing at times, but this type of event, of course, is designed to listen to all of you. So if any of you have anything you may be concerned about happening around campus, now would be definitely the time to let the administration know about that. So for the Q&A, of course, I'm going to start with questions of my own, but when it comes to Q&A, if anyone wants to come up and speak, of course, state your name, your major, your year here in Brookdale, and why you are here and what you would like to speak out about. We will go in intervals depending on anyone comments through the Zoom or the Instagram live feed that we have here. But anyways, let's get started. Yesterday, Dr. Stout, this is to you. Yesterday marked the end of New Jersey's statewide mask mandate. Now, you and I have discussed in great length how masks have been a game changer from the jump. From your perspective, what has the response been when you speak with students, faculty, and staff on campus?
Thanks so much for the question. So the response certainly does differ based on what a person's perspective is in terms of mask wearing to begin with. People who have felt that mask wearing is important in terms of protecting their own personal safety and others' safety, I do believe are more hesitant to remove the mask, which is completely understandable and part of the reason for why we have said that we're encouraging people to wear masks. Many of you, for those of you who are in the room who are students, you know that I surveyed our student body right after making the decision that we would be doing the mask optional as of yesterday. And the responses, I was very surprised within the first couple of hours of having sent the survey out through email. I had over 600 responses. As of yesterday, we had over 1,400 responses to the survey, and 85% of the student body was either neutral or happy with the decision. More than 60%, is about 62% of the students that responded were happy with the decision, and then the other 24 approximately percent were neutral to the decision. So that shows you that there's just within our student body alone, there's a variety of responses. The majority of people being happy with it, and certainly the vast majority being at least neutral about the decision. Our employees, we've been receiving questions that have come through to me about people's concerns or questions that they have about COVID. I mean, about the masks and the mask optional change. We sent the request out to over 1,000 employees to ask any questions that they might have about it or express any concerns. We did not receive many, so I've asked the question of Dr. Reed to talk with the deans about what responses were coming back, and we've been addressing any concerns that have come up that way. Anecdotally, from what I've been hearing, our employees are either neutral or happy with, again, sort of similar to the survey that went out, with a similar percentage, about 20% of our employees being concerned or unhappy with the decision. So I would say approximately across the board, that's about the receipt of that, the decision to go mask optional. And I do have to, I'm sorry, Dominic, I just wanted to just mention, if everybody sees me slip off the stage, I do have to leave in about 10 minutes to go to another meeting. So Dominic, I don't know if you had another question or two for me before I have to go.
Well, so, since you covered the COVID part of it, I will jump over to what will new projects that are going on around college that you have mentioned specifically to me, but I would love to have you mention it to the rest of the people tuning in.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dominic. So many of you know that the college is in the process of building a wellness center. We do have I'm going to call it an ungroundbreaking, because it's not really going to be an official groundbreaking. That'll happen on April 26th. Dr. Anita Vogt has been very much involved in coordinating this group, this effort to get our wellness center off the ground. So we anticipate having our wellness center project construction underway before the end of this semester, with an opening date we're hoping for by about the third week in September, which is World Wellness Week. So that's one major project we're working on. We're very excited about. It's going to involve the entire campus community in either curricular, co-curricular activities, and also services, which are very needed. Second major project that we're excited about is our development of our esports program, which is going to be downstairs in the Student Life Center, in the former location where the club rooms were, SLB 109. That esports program construction, the documents have been developed for construction, and that project should be underway as well before the end of the semester. And then the other major project we're working on is the cybersecurity center. And I don't know a date as far as when that construction is going to take place. Jimmy, I'm not sure if you have any additional information on that, but that's another project that will be underway, and I think will be over the course of this year. Correct? Yes.
And also, I have one more for you also. A policy that is currently in place right now, still after the mask mandate that has been lifted, is that students are required to either submit their full vaccination card, or if they're not vaccinated, get tested for COVID weekly. Have you and the board trustees decided yet on whether or not to keep this in place for next year?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and one that comes up pretty frequently.
Yeah.
At this moment, I have not discussed it with the Board of Trustees as far as the extension or the continuance of our policy on vaccinations and masking. What I would tell you is that we have COVID relief money, federal stimulus money, that we've been using to help to pay for testing, and also all of the elements around that. So the compliance efforts that have gone into that have been largely funded through our COVID stimulus money. We know that money is going to dry up in August of this year. We may not receive an extension of that, so we're going to have to weigh that in terms of our ability to be able to continue with the policy. But that's a discussion that I have to have with the Board of Trustees, having this past month just gotten through the discussion about masking. The next step is to really talk about the policy on vaccinations and testing. So I can't give you any more information about that until after I speak with the board, but I would be happy to let you know so that you can push that out to all students where we land when we have that discussion, which would hopefully happen at the end of this month.
Thank you, Dr. Sapp. So I also want to continue. Will there ever be a chance, do you think, by the following, or by next year or the following spring semester, that students will attend classes all in person again?
So I'm going to answer that question, and probably have to be my last one before I have to slip out. So I do apologize to everyone. But then I'll also turn it over to Dr. Reed and to the deans to talk about plans for the spring, for the summer, and for fall semester. We do have the opportunity for students to take classes fully in person even this semester, and we do plan on having our students on campus in the summer and in the fall. We are looking forward to seeing more students here in person. We are still planning on having some of our operations running remotely to accommodate students who also want their services and courses to be delivered remotely. But we do intend on having a more full program available for students to be here in person. So Dr. Reed and Institute Deans, did you want to add any additional details to that?
Thank you. That's correct. Right now, if a student wants to, you could take your entire schedule in person now. That's actually possible. We will be running a larger percentage of in-person classes this summer and fall than we did this spring. However, we will continue to have some remote live and some online classes. We found that a lot of students like to mix and match. It's common for students to do several in-person classes early in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then instead of taking the Thursday class, they'll take an online class. And that gives them more flexibility for part-time jobs and for complicated lives. So that mix and match, I think, is a very appealing option for many students. And we plan to offer enough sections in every format that students will be able to construct a schedule that makes sense for them.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Now, this is probably to the Dr. Mattis, Dr. Reed, and the rest. What will the procedure be if anyone on campus tests positive in this type of situation with decreasing cases? And will there be a difference of the approach between a vaccinated and unvaccinated student?
So right now, if a student tests positive, our first course of action is to make sure we identify any close contacts. We send a notification to the student's class or classes based on when the student was positive and potentially could be exposing others. We are very sensitive to the unvaccinated and vaccinated, so we don't do anything with close contacts there. What we do is we inform the student once they let us know, and then the student can then notify the instructor. Oftentimes the instructor, if it was a close contact in class, they'll know who the close contacts were because they are keeping seating charts. But it's handled with discretion to make sure that, again, that we are very mindful of your privacy.
Now, if one cannot make it to an in-person class, maybe on a given day, this is a separate question to academically, will there be any way nowadays to join via a Zoom connection at any point to avoid missing content or participation?
That depends on the class. There are classes in which it makes sense to have a live streaming option, and our Teaching and Learning Center has ordered a whole host of conference cameras that can be placed in classrooms to live stream a class to a student who's, let's say, quarantining. I don't want to say that that's possible in every class because there are certain classes that kind of need to be done in person. I'm thinking here of something like culinary or automotive, where it's a very hands-on kind of thing. If you're rebuilding a transmission, you can't really do that remotely. You kind of have to be where the transmission is. So it's not a universal thing, but yes, we do have the ability for faculty to live stream. However, I want to make clear that that's not meant to be something that people use for the entire semester. It's meant to be something that's used on a short-term basis to get you through an illness with the expectation that you'll be coming back. The classes, in-person classes, are meant to be taken in person.
Now, for former Brookdale students that I've heard from taking Rutgers classes on our campus, we made that deal, what was it, a few years ago, or about a year ago, that deal was made, and they feel left out of clubs, they've been saying, and activities because they don't get it through Rutgers being on our campus. How do we resolve?
So I think Rutgers needs to step up their game a little, right? If they're offering programs and their students want to also have a social aspect, then they have to find ways to cultivate that for their students or find ways to join our student life and activities, but with funding, because as you all know, our programs that are supported for you partially are funded by your student fees. So we have to be very careful of that. And Lauren does a great job to always make sure that every student, every Brookdale student is included in that. So when it's a Rutgers student, even though you're still our student because you were Brookdale, it just muddies the waters a little bit and we have to be careful.
I've also heard from students that mentioning how much they've really missed live music or dance during lunch, and would like to see them return to campus when things start to normalize next academic year in the fall. It's both a question and a comment. How do we start resolving that, especially when it comes to this coming 2022-2023 fall semester?
So typically what happens is that, everything comes through the Student Life Board. So when we do our programming meetings, every other Monday at 12:30, students are certainly able to join us and talk a little bit more about what they would like to see on campus. We did vote last semester. We did have a Laugh at Lunch on campus, and the students decided that it wasn't a great turnout. Not a lot of students came to it, and they wanted to focus more on doing grab and goes in person because, obviously, the numbers were spiking. But we can certainly talk about bringing back next semester all programming that we have done on campus. I think they're talking about our Live at Lunch program, which is more of a cultural, and bringing in more of that music as well. Please note that Spring Fling is coming up, and the Student Life Board did vote on a band coming to campus for the Spring Fling barbecue that happens every year and a food truck event. So stay tuned for that. Good?
I must add, if any students are tuning in and they don't know about later this week, we have a bingo event coming up Thursday night at 6:30. And usually those events fill up very quickly, so I would highly advise you check your Canvas shell. Please sign up. Let's fill this event up. There's a lot of good prizes. We'd love to see you there. But moving on, as we all know, administrators, not all our classrooms are occupied during class hours. Now, due to many of my fellow students taking online classes this semester and likely in the coming fall semester also, is there anything that can be done with those unused classrooms specifically in order to elevate the services and spaces available around campus for students to utilize, such as a study room, gaming room, or lounge area to wait for classes in?
I'll ask Dr. Burns to speak to the study room issue. We have a number of study rooms in the library that I don't know if every student knows about. Dr. Burns?
Yes, in our library upstairs, second floor Bankier Library, and there's a couple on the first floor. We have 25 group study rooms that have recently been renovated with new furniture, large monitors, 42-inch monitors you could plug your laptop into, and there's charging stations in there. And they're really a great spot to do some group work. You can do it during the peak times. We ask that students sign up, and they can sign up at the library. They can sign up through the library website, and you can reserve blocks of time. You reserve 2 hours, and then if nobody shows up for that third hour, you can stay in there until someone else comes along. But really, I'd like to encourage folks to take advantage of that space because it really is terrific. And we have all sorts of spots on the second floor, study carrels, tables. That's the quiet space. Downstairs, the computers, there's a little more collaborative space, not quite as quiet, but it's still a great spot to get work done. So take advantage of it.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. I've also heard from students, I've also fielded questions if we in Brookdale could have a food pantry space, someone said, for food insecure students in the new wellness center that will be opened up soon. That's a little bit of both a question and a suggestion once we open that up in the coming fall. If anyone wants to comment on that.
Dr. Vogt?
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? It's a little hard to understand the question. But I think what you're talking about is our nutrition center in the wellness center, and just some information about that. So we're all familiar with Helping Hands, the food pantry that has been in existence now for quite a while. So that Helping Hands Lounge is basically, it's on the second floor now. It's basically going to be coming down to the first floor. And we have some renovations that are planned for that site that are just magnificent. So we think it'll be a very popular site for students, not only for food and for different supplies that are needed, but also as just a gathering spot, because we'll have tables there and a little bit of workspace. So it'll be a very comfortable and important part of the Wellness Center. I also want to mention that one of our partners for the Wellness Center is Monmouth Medical Center. And Monmouth Medical Center just made a very nice donation to the Wellness Center, to the Nutrition Center. And so we're looking forward to really embellishing what we currently have and making more supplies, increasing the hours, making it as available to students as possible. So it'll be an important feature of our Wellness Center.
Thank you, Dr. Vogt. I've also heard from student athletes who have approached me that they are really not able to use the athletic building spaces, sometimes due to both outside groups sometimes and also Monmouth County ran functions using the space, so they will have to sometimes bring their equipment outside to do things that they want to do inside. If Jimmy Episcopia, if you can comment on that. Oh, sorry. I've heard from student athletes that they are not able to use athletic building spaces due to both outside groups and within Monmouth County, the Monmouth County ran events using space. If Jimmy or anyone else wants to comment on that.
So athletics and event management shares a calendar where we can see all the spaces that we both share. And we talk to each other probably weekly about big events and how it would impact, if there's an athletic game or practice. So we do work well together. Sometimes we fight for the same space and time. So we try to work together with the partnership.
Thank you. Now I'm going to move forward to ask any of our students on whether it's on Zoom or here on campus if they have any questions to ask the administration.
Hi, my name is Anita. I don't have a major because college, fun, kind of. My question is about the gym. So when are the hours going to expand, if they are going to expand, and how do you get in if you don't have a Brookdale card, if that's an option?
Talking about the fitness center specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, Lauren. I think Lauren can speak to that a little bit.
So currently, the gym at the fitness center, we'll call it, is currently only open to Brookdale students. We did expand the hours after our speak out last semester and students asking us to expand the hours for student. We made it as part of our intramural program and not so much as a community fitness center due to COVID and the regulations that we had at the time. So currently our expanded hours are 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But currently it is only open to Brookdale students. I don't know if we are going to expand that beyond just Brookdale students, if we're going to expand it to faculty, staff, and community. That's something that I think is being discussed at the moment. Currently it is only open to the Brookdale community students. Yep. So you're talking about a student ID. Okay, that's different. I'm sorry, I apologize. So student IDs can be done online. So if you go on our website underneath Brookdale ID, you can go under student engagement. That'll bring you right directly to the Brookdale ID. You can submit your picture online, and then they'll send you an email to pick it up. I do know that there is talk, and I think Mary Beth is over here. There is talk about hopefully doing it in person as the time goes on, am I correct? But currently you would do that online and then you can do it. If you do want to use the fitness center and you are able to pull up your student planning and go through the process of putting your password in and everything, Greg, who runs the fitness center currently, will accept that as well. Because not a lot of students do have their IDs at the moment, but we will accept that. Yep, so you're certainly able to utilize it.
Anyone else have questions in person? Emily Maxim, our president of Psychology Club.
All right, this is going to be a little bit long. I had to type it out real quick. Oh yeah, I'm Emily Maxim. My major is social work. And so as president of the Psych and Human Services Club, one thing that we've been focusing on since spring of 2021 as a club is the stigmatization of mental health across campus as well as Monmouth County. And we use Monmouth County's pledge about being stigma-free. We spread this message through the Stigma-Free Speaker Series, in which we talk openly about topics that are considered taboo since spring of 2021. And this includes ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, depression, addiction, etc. And we're continuing with this starting Thursday. And one thing I noticed in my psychology-related classes, resources pertaining to mental illness are always mentioned in the modules in Canvas, and psychology and social work fields focus on a topic like mental health. When it comes to other classes that are for other majors, for example, poli-sci, sociology, or math, they don't leave any resources pertaining to mental illness in Canvas. How can we get the other professors who don't study mental illness tell other students about the different resources that are available, since mental health affects many college students no matter what?
I do know that prior to COVID, we did have information in all the course syllabi related to mental health services. That being said, I know that a lot of students do find Canvas to be the easiest way to get to that information. I think it's certainly a discussion we could have about, potentially having a shell that all faculty would use that might have some additional resources within it. I don't know if Matt or Bill or you want to speak to that specifically, but I definitely think that we might be able to use the psych faculty as a model to kind of have other faculty adopt that. Canvas is a little tricky because faculty use it in different ways, so what one faculty does doesn't always work for another faculty member, but for something like this, I think that there might be an opportunity for us to, especially with the Wellness Center coming along, to develop a kind of standard thing for folks to share within Canvas.
And I would say right now, we do have a Canvas shell for all students that has lots of different resources. We can double check to make sure that information is in there. And also the faculty talk to each other and they try to make sure that they have the materials available for the student. So Dr. Reed, for example, runs a faculty meeting every month. They talk about things that might be common that they might use. So that's something that we could talk about within our academic institute and with faculty as a whole to see how that might be provided in all.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So, and if I could just add to it, because you bring up a really good point, like even now we have a full-time social worker at the college, and we've been having discussions with her in terms of how, where can the information be posted that students will read it, see it. Maybe we could almost even flip the question, like, where do you go for information? Just as a little bit of context, is it a website? Is it a Canvas shell? Where do you go for information?
Me personally? The only thing I see is through modules, they always mention on Canvas about different resources. When it comes, that's with my psychology related classes. And when I go on different modules for say my biology class, I don't really see that. So I just know because since psychology deals with certain things pertaining to anxiety, depression, but I know biology or math wouldn't do that, but just because I wanted to mention that, because I know especially with college students right now, it's depression and anxiety has been an issue, especially since the pandemic's been going on. And like I said, I just don't see the same resources when it comes to different classes, so I was just concerned for other students when they have different majors about mental illness and where to go for that.
It's really helpful for us, just as it's helpful to have the speak outs. It works both ways to get, we have been trying to include students every step of the way with the Wellness Center. I mean, even being on search committees, being on all of our committees. So getting that feedback is really important to us, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And I just want to just to clarify what you're saying you think this information would be most accessible within the course's Canvas shell, correct? Not as another Canvas shell standalone. You think students would find it most accessible if it was within the individual course in Canvas?
I feel like that could be definitely beneficial since like every like first class, you know, they go over the syllabus, how the modules work, and you know, most of the time you don't see like I said, a mental health module when it comes to that, because then they'll mention everything. And then, like I said, with one of my psychology classes, then they'll say, oh, here's a resource pertaining to like mental health. And like I said, I don't see that with other classes.
Okay. No, absolutely. That's good feedback, because one of the things we're concerned about is we don't want to keep cluttering Canvas and make it another thing that students don't necessarily pay attention to because it is so important. So, you know, maybe having that built in within the courses would be good. One other thing I did want to mention is we are in the process of launching an initiative called Every Mind Matters that's going to provide each faculty and staff at the college with a resource folder that helps guide them in working with students to direct them to the best resources on campus as well. So hopefully that'll be another good way that faculty can share that info. And also we have a 24/7 safeguarded app called Talk Campus, where students can go for peer support as well. So that's just something I wanted to mention. But absolutely, I appreciate your feedback about, you know, it living within the specific courses.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Axel Boomman, the treasurer of the Student Life Board, stepping up to the plate.
Hey, how you doing? I actually have two questions. The first one, it's happened to me before, and some people ask me too. That well, I usually always look for information in the website. So whenever I'm like trying to get a new, into a new club, or people ask me about clubs, I try to get the information there. But I've noticed that a lot of the information for clubs specifically aren't like up to date. So it still says like meeting times from like 2 years ago, or sometimes not even about the meeting times for the advisors. I've seen some clubs that don't even have any advisors, or just one out of the many that they might have. And I'd have the advantage that I'm part of the Student Life Board, so I can look those up. But I'm concerned for like most other students who don't have that, how they can find that information.
So every semester when we deal with active clubs versus non-active clubs on campus, it is up to the club and organization to provide us with all the details needed for specific meeting times or Zoom meetings. And we are running into some difficulties with not being updated by those specific clubs and also their advisors. So we have been really in contact with all of the advisors. Erin is diligent on making sure that she's in contact with them at all times. I'm not quite sure, we did take down all the meeting times that were old, so I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, because we do update that regularly. If there is no meeting time, they're probably inactive for the semester, and they are put on an inactive page. So we will look into that, because I want to make sure that I was having a problem actually yesterday that a lot of stuff under student life disappeared on the website that we have connected, like our travel policies and everything also disappeared on the website. So we are, and Erin actually is in the process of updating all of that information to make sure that it's back on there. And thank goodness we actually keep copies of all that stuff, because it did disappear. So we will make sure that we update that, and I don't know what happened there. But yeah, clubs and organizations are asked through our office to provide us with the information. And everything on the website does say, if you need more information, please contact Student Life and Activities. So we do have that on there as well, so students can contact. Same thing with all clubs and organizations. The module underneath the Canvas shell of involvement is updated accordingly as well. So they can find the information on the Canvas shell as well as the information on the website. Okay?
My second question, last semester I was part of the photography class in the film photography particularly, and I've noticed that in CVA room 116 there's the photo lab, and there's a lot of water waste. So I know it's part of the process to have running water the whole time, but it's perfectly clean water. It doesn't have any chemicals, and I don't know particularly where that water goes, but I think it might be a good idea to reduce that waste and reuse that same water to use the water for the toilets in the same building, or use that water to water the plants around the building, so it doesn't go to waste, all that water.
Dr. Webster Hanson, would you like to address that?
I would be very happy to look into that for you. I am not in charge of facilities, so I'm not sure how that would work with the plumbing, but I love the idea as a fellow aspiring environmentalist. I'm not perfect, as you can see, but I think it's a great idea. I'm happy to speak to the photography professor, and also with, I don't know if this would be your area, Jimmy, or would I contact Christopher Otis?
Yeah. So your question was, you run a lot of water with
Yeah.
the photography lab?
Yeah, there's like huge tubs. There's 2 rooms with huge tubs that have running water in them the whole class, and sometimes even more than the class because there's open lab times. And during that whole time, which days a week for like 6 hours, it's always running water. I'm just concerned about all that water that's.
I mean, everything's tied into the sewer line, so there's really no way to back out the drains to reuse that water. I mean, I can talk to my safety officer and take a look at what you have, but I am familiar with your space. As far as reusing the water, it's not an easy feat, only because how it's tied into the sewer system.
Or if possible, instead of that, just to get people to be more aware of that so they can turn off the water while it's not being in use. Turn it on when someone's actually using it and needs that part of the water.
So, I'm sorry, Chris. I mean, one solution could be just having something that's automated that when you approach the sink, the water would turn on. I just don't know, if someone backs away, then that water's going to turn off. And I don't know how that would impact what you're doing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, and you partially got there for me, but if I was going to ask you if the water is running, then when people are not necessarily standing there using it. So are you saying that between uses, it's just constantly turned on and not having any use for the photography work itself?
So I'm not sure if it's turned on when the gets there or if the first person gets turned on. But I've like walked into the room and it's already turned on. It's not exactly like a sink, more like a tub that's constantly being filled and like overflown into like sewage. And you do need it for like 10 to 20 minutes for the photos to like be washed out. But after that, you don't really need it, and before that, you don't really need it either. So during those times, like in between the photos that you're doing, it might be like useful to turn it on or have set an automated system that will for you.
Yeah, I'm actually happy to speak to our full-time photography professor about this, and the chairperson for that area to kind of find out more of the details, to understand why this is happening, and if perhaps our new part-time assistant could monitor that situation. We do have some more help now as of the past couple of weeks, but I will definitely make some inquiries and strong recommendations that be monitored more closely. I agree, we shouldn't be using water if it's not going toward the actual work itself. I'm hoping that he has a system set up so that it is somehow recycled, but I would need to be there, ask some questions, and take a look into it.
Okay.
But I appreciate that information. Thank you.
One quick question. Is the water temperature need to be at a certain set point?
Not for that particular part. Before that process, there is some water that actually needs to be a certain temperature, but that's in another room. You can turn it off and on very easily. That particular part, you don't really need it for the hot or cold or at a certain temperature running water.
All right, thank you.
Would I be able to get your contact information so I can follow up if I have more questions?
Sure.
Thanks. If you want to I don't know if you have paper, you could write it down and hand it to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for that. Vandy, she wants to comment also.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Vandana Patel, and my major is information technology. And as this semester is coming to end, I'm going to be graduating from Brookdale, and it's like a art. So I just wanted to get I just have a couple of questions, sorry. Because I have asked my professors and they don't even know about it, so I think it's a good idea for me to ask here if I can get. So my first question is, for this graduating, is this gonna be in-person event or online or like?
So yes, so we actually met last week as a logistics team, and we are going to be doing a traditional in-person graduation for this year, going back to the old traditional way. So all the information actually is updated on the website today, but now I'm concerned because the club thing happened. So, but it is updated today on the website, and all correspondence will be done within the next couple of weeks. Graduation caps and gowns can be ordered. The links are up there. So everything is now coming into play. So May 12th, there'll be a 10 a.m. ceremony for AA degree seeking students, and 3 p.m. will be everybody else. So it will be in person and traditional. So.
I have another question regarding to build up my resume to apply for the intern or for the specific job. Who may I need to contact to help me to resolve this confusion or to have a good resume?
I'll take that one. My name's Sarah McGarry. I'm the Executive Director of Career and Transfer Pathways. And I'm proud that here at Brookdale we have a really awesome career and leadership staff that's willing to help students write a resume, interview skills, LinkedIn profile, which is really important for social media, and especially in the IT field. You're going to want to have a good technological social media presence. But they're absolutely willing to meet with students virtually, in person, whatever works best for you. I would definitely suggest reaching out to our career office. Their email is just career@brookdalecc.edu. Very simple. And they're also located in MAC 105. So you can always walk by as well. And they have a lot of great resources also for you. So, they have a resume writing guide. They just had a career speaker that was really awesome last week, thanks to Student Life and Activities for co-sponsoring it. And we have her book available if you're interested in a copy of that, about kind of like recalculating your career in this different kind of workforce that we have now as a result of COVID. But I would definitely suggest reaching out to them soon. They're happy to meet with you now and even throughout the summer if you need help looking for a job. They also have an online job and internship database that you'll want to be a part of called Handshake, which is a lot of what our four-year partners use as well. And it's filled with opportunities that are local as well as other states, even virtual work, which is very popular right now too. So I would get connected with them. It's the Career, Leadership, and Transfer Pathways Department in MAC 105, and you can email them at career@brookdalecc.edu. Okay?
Sure. Thank you so much for your answer. And I think you answer halfway of my third question. Is like, if I wanted to, because I love Brookdale Community College and I want to just be a part of it, is there any way that I can able to find out that I can get a hire by like any IT team, or if they have any intern looking for summer or any other future openings, who may I should contact or get in touch with them to get some more information?
So you mean you were interested in maybe applying for positions at Brookdale?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Pat Sensei, our HR VP, may have a better answer, but I'm thinking that we also have an online database for Brookdale positions, and you can always look and see what's available there if there's anything part-time. So that's always a possibility. So meet with the career office for your resume and your interview skills, right?
Sure.
And then submit your resume to as widely as you can. The career office has a lot of great connections also in the community, so you may have a lot of options. So I would say apply widely, but I don't know if Pat has any other advice for you, but I think probably applying online would be.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So we actually, in an IT department, so we're a partner with Brookdale, so we're actually not directly Brookdale. Currently, we don't have any opportunities that are open. But if you want to, send some of your information to me, I'd be happy to keep everything on file with our company to take a look at it.
Sure.
That being said, there are some great opportunities that are Brookdale where technology skills are kind of at the forefront of the position. So as Sarah said, definitely take a look at the Brookdale opportunities that are out there. I know there are some tech positions within the library. and a
Right, the
few others.
library has some needs, so I'll chat with you afterwards.
No problem. Thank you so
Yes.
much, everybody.
And I'll talk to you afterwards as well.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you so
thanks.
much.
In addition to that, every month we now co-sponsor with departments for bingo so that we can bring departments in at nighttime so our nighttime students or students that can only come during our nighttime programming. So this month is Career Leadership and Transfer Pathways co-sponsorship. So Thursday they will be here during bingo. So if anybody would like to talk to that department, they will be here during that time as well. So.
And I have to back up Dr. McElroy on the Career and Transfer Pathways office, because I actually walked in there for the first time just last week to take a look at the new book written by Lindsay Pollack, who was the guest speaker that we hosted, sponsored by Student Life Activities, and in my view, she was absolutely unreal. She was great. She's a heck of an author and a great speaker, and really sets it to you straight how you need to, in these times, and these different times during COVID, promote your brand and advancing and continuing on through your career. And moving forward, I do have 2 comments. But actually, before that, I want to give it over to anyone on Zoom commenting or questioning. Okay, thank you, Aaron. So we'll just jump to comments here. One student said, "When I meet a Brookdale employee who truly cares about me, my journey is always lifted up. The sad part is, for every one Brookdale employee who helps you, 5 will let you down. Employees need to understand the people who go to Brookdale are struggling. They are here because they have nowhere else to turn to better their lives. Many Brookdale employees lack kindness, compassion, and patience." If anyone wants to comment on that before I go on. Thank you. A change in suggestion that someone said is that personal counselors who periodically check in on active students, that's what one student suggested, and how our classes, how is home life, that could be a few good questions. How can we help you to make it through the semester? Other than that, I have no other comments. But I must say, again, thank you all for coming out to the Speak Out. Thank you for taking the time to be with us in your busy schedules. And of course, thank you, students, and my Student Life Board, Molly Fennessy, our Vice President, Axel Boonman, our Treasurer, Emily Maxim, our Psychology Club President, and of course, Sergey behind the camera, Ben, the whole rest of the crew, Lauren Brutzman, our Director of Student Life, Neil Onder, our Events Management Manager, and of course, Nate behind the scenes taking care of the technology, and everyone else here. Before we go on, do we have any other comments to end it?
You did a great job, Dominic. I just wanted to respond. I think I heard you say that there was a student that felt that the Brookdale family was not warm. And that's usually not the reaction that we have from our students. So if that student is watching or listening or would like to reach out to you, we'd love to learn more because we really pride ourselves in being a helping community. And we don't want any student falling through the cracks and not feeling the love.
One more thing I wanted to ask you all, from my heart, I'm doing this off the cuff before we end this. Now, you guys are all leaders. You're all leaders of a department. What does it take to be a leader, to make it to that point and work with everyone who may be under you that you have to advise, supervise, and certain things like that?
I think it takes a lot of reflection. I think it takes a lot of strength, patience, and I think we all have to be able to acknowledge what our strengths are, but also what our weaknesses are. We've come out of a really terrible time. This pandemic has really hurt a lot of people, and I think that we're in a process of healing. We have the Civility Week that we just ran. We have some other programming that's coming up that's all centered around coming together as a community. And I think that when we stay centered on why we're here, and proudly we say we're here because of the students, we could support each other and our students and come out in a better place.
Any of you would like to comment on that before we go on?
I could offer one tip to anyone wanting to move into management. It would be to develop your self-awareness as much as you possibly can. There will be times in management when you have to respond to people who are coming at you in ways you would rather they didn't. And if you know what your triggers are, and if you know how to respond to high emotion, and you can control your own emotion in the key moment, that goes a long way. It's one thing to lose your temper when you're on kind of the low end of the food chain. When you're on the high end of the food chain, if you lose your temper, it scares everybody. It's not good. So to the extent that, I'm really looking at the students here, as you are moving through your programs of study and as you're sort of moving into professional jobs and moving up the ranks, I encourage you, take those moments to reflect. When you have a day when you responded to someone in a way that you're not proud of, because it's going to happen, take a moment to reflect. Why did I respond that way? How could I have responded differently? How can I respond differently in the future when something like that happens? Actually taking that moment. I do it by writing, other people do it in other ways. But whatever you do, just to stop and reflect on your own reactions so that when things get heated or scary or people are upset, that you don't inadvertently add to it. You can sort of take the larger view and provide the confidence and the sort of security that people need to calm down and focus on what needs to be done.
Thank you, Dr. Reed.
I would actually like to add a couple of things.
Thank you, Doctor.
I echo Dr. Reed's sentiments. And I'd like to add, I think it's really important for anyone seeking a leadership position that you would be doing it out of a concern for making a positive impact, making a difference in a large community, and that you would be seeking to empower others, collaborate with others, seek collaboration and buy-in from all of the constituencies, and to have respect for people at all levels so that hierarchy becomes secondary to what people can do together as a team. And I think that if a person is seeking to rise for the power and the fame, that leadership is not for you. Leadership is for people that are willing to embrace others and bring them into a conversation to make a difference. And in addition to that, it does take a lot of thick skin because there will be people that will always be unhappy with you. And others that will be happy, so you'll get both, but you have to have the thick skin and you have to have empathy, and it's a combination of both.
Thank you, Dr. Webster Hanson. Anyone else want to comment before we adjourn? Well, with that, thank you all for coming to the Speak Out, and have a great rest of your day.